Mic check. Ah ha ha ha. I be the anti-myth rhythm rock shocker. This one goes out to Gary. Respect, Gary. Gary says, yo, you gotta check out some Flipper, man. Recommended on the Patreon. And let me tell you, right, I've seen Flipper referenced once or twice or thrice through... It's a United States band, right? The only alternative would be it's a Canadian band. But yeah, this band is referenced like quite frequently as far as the days of old. And Gary put me forth and said, yo, if you want punk rock music, this is punk rock music. And you know what? I'm looking forward to this. We've got 9 tracks. It's uncommon that I get to do what I love as far as the music I really love, and that's punk and hardcore music, because either the songs are too short or the bands are so just sort of niche and out of the way that... Sorry, so it's caught my eye there. So niche and out of the way that it's just like it makes no sense to do them, because no one's really going to care. Unless you're on the Patreon, you want me to check out what you want me to check out. But we got 9 tracks, and we're going to just jump straight in. So this one goes out to Gary. One Love, my brother. Generic Flipper is the title of the album. I don't know where this comes in the discography. Have we got comments? Comments are turned off, alright. So without further ado, let's jump in. I don't know what to expect. I've never listened to this band before. Let me get my volume on. I've never listened to this band before. I really don't know to what degree of punk we're going to be listening to tonight. Let's go. Some long songs on this. 8 minutes 34 for track number 4. This is going to be fascinating. This is one of the most exciting ones. Alright, so already we're mad out of tune. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. We need to see where this goes.
Ever live a life is real, full of zest, with no appeal. Ever had to really cry so much you want to die. Ever feel like you've been had so much that you turn mad. Ever been so depressed that those who turn to you bring distress?
The big booming just muddle of guitar thrown in the mix creates this big bold wall of sound. My man Gary, you like a little bit of grunge here and there, and to me, this particular sound falls within the space of some of the ideas we've been hearing of the bands of the 90s. In particular, I would say Nirvana.
Ever sit in tormenting silence that turns so loud you start to scream? Ever take
Universal,
control of a
1981.
dream and play all the parts and set all the scene? Ever do nothing and gain nothing from it? Ever feel stupid and then know you really are?
The thing is, even like you could say, the guitars sound like this, and the instrumental isn't fantastic, and it's messy, and this, that, and the first. You can hear through the vocal clarity, right? There is a good sound production on this. This is completely intentional, and the studio are completely aware of what is running through the speakers. I can't imagine it's self-produced, because that vocal is so bold and clear, you know?
Ever think you're smart and find out that you aren't? Ever play the fool and find out that you're worse? Ever look at a flower and hate it? Ever see a couple kiss and get sickened by it? Ever wish the human race didn't exist? Then realize you're one too. Well,
I wonder how many guitars were in the mix then. I wonder how many electric guitars were in the mix there. This is fascinating. I wonder if we continue with the same theme throughout the record from here on, or whether that was a one-off. It's interesting that the bass guitar held a melody there. The guitar was just a big boom, man. Just a big boom. We got Life is Cheap coming up next, track number 2. I'll see you there. Yes, now bless now, people. Not forget the rest now. There's Rocksteady, King of the Pit TV. This one is Life is Cheap. We're listening to Flipper today, alright? My very, very first time listening to Flipper. This is track number 2 off of the record Generic Flipper, recommended by my man Gary. Thank you very much. I am wondering if we can continue with the same theme as to what we had on Ever. Let's find out. These dudes used to play with Black Flag a lot. Am I right in saying that? I think I've seen them on some flyers with Black Flag. Back in like, man, yonks back, I had the book American Hardcore, and I think I seen Flipper on some bills. Where they from? That was good. That was That was better than track number 1. That was better than ever. That was good, quite poetic in nature, as it was the vocal line and the lyrical content that sort of created the development of the song. The instrumental just plugged along. The vocal effect with the high register vocal edited on the top, or, you know, done alongside the main vocal, but with the effect on it, reminded me of a couple of acts in the nature of this band. One being Void, which was a band that knocked around during this era. They had a song called Organised Sports, where I think they sort of played on that vocal effect. And Rudimentary Peni, a band I really like a lot, UK anarcho-punk, like one-man project / band. They did, you know, a lot of work where they had that sort of zany, high-register vocal on top. We've got Shed No Tears coming up next, track number 3. I'll see you there, alright? Let's keep going. We're listening to Flipper tonight, alright, people? Shed No Tears is track number 3 of 9 on the album Generic Flipper. It was recommended on Patreon by my very good friend Gary. Thank you very much for this, Gary. You know what? You've put me onto a band that I never got around to listening to and always needed to, so this is really good. Shed No Tears is the track of this one, as I have said. And we're going to get moving after these advertisements. Okie dokie, okie dokie, okie dokie. Are you ready? Sounds like we've got 2 guitars in the mix. One of them's making the racket pan to the left-hand side, making a lot of racket with the mutes from time to time. So you're hearing them high frequencies come through. And then you've got like a real sort of in the mix, blurred out lower register guitar, which almost is within that bass frequency, it feels. You do hear a bit of jangle with that guitar as well. Hold on. Yeah. Right, yeah. Have you found... I don't know if my mind's playing tricks on me or what, but do you feel like the music, the instrumental in particular, well, the vocal line as well, gets a little bit, very ever so slightly, but consistently more intense by the time you reach the end of the track? I don't know if it's the heap of revolution you go through to get to the end, the amount of cycling through the riff, but it feels as if there's an intensity that progresses as you get through start to finish. I don't know if the band subconsciously do this as they jam through. The vocal approach is a little bit more of a spoken word, I would say, a little bit more of a spoken word performance as opposed to like your general outburst or even sung melodies. Cool. There's a lot of bands. Well, I say a lot of bands. There's not a lot of bands, but it really does define. I mean, some of it might be put on, but around this particular period of United States hardcore music, there's a lot of bands that really couldn't play instruments at all, and you got a lot of acts which were just putting records together and putting tunes on the studio, and it always felt like it was just on the verge of falling apart. And this seems to be one of them bands. It feels like the band wants to fall apart any moment, but they somehow just keep it pulled together. We've got I Saw You Shine coming up next. Quite a long one, this one. Let's keep going. There's Rocksteady at King of the Pit TV. We're listening to Flipper. Generic Flipper. With the album. Alright. I thought the record was called Generic Flipper for the last few songs, but I've clocked on that it might just be entitled Album, and they've gone by the alternate name of Generic Flipper for this one. This one's entitled I Saw You Shine, and it's a long one at 8 minutes 33. Let's go. Goes out to my man Gary. Recommended this on the Patreon, one love. Ba-ba-ba.
I saw you shine. I was holding you. I watched your face.
The guitar work is genius in its own way, because it's nonsensical noise to the extent where I can barely at times make out really what's going on, but it sounds good. It's organized chaos in its own way.
I saw your face as you heard my words. My words. You left me to hold. to hammer the walls with my hands. With my hands. The lights have all gone out. The lights have all gone out. The lights have all gone out. Lights have all gone out. I saw you. I saw you shine. I saw you.
This act is another jam band, so we have jam bands to varying degrees. And when I say jam band, I don't necessarily mean that they've made it up on the spot, but you can tell through listening to an act as to whether they compose and, you know, take time external to practice and this, that, and the third to, you know, put this music together and, you know, they bring ideas to practice and then they sort of compose it in that way. These dudes sound like, you know, I think in particular the bassist might come up with an idea. The bassist might come up with an idea, then the drummer starts joining in, starts jamming on it, and then the guitar guy just throws his pizzazz over the top, just throws his his attack of noise, this audio assault upon the top, just lays it like a blanket atop the rest of the instrumental, and then the front man sort of adds, which is the key of this band, and that's puts pen to paper and creates lyrical content, you know.
I saw you shine. I saw you shine.
Now I can hear the guitar work, I can hear the power chords. Dun 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 dun. Good production, I think. You can hear the boom of that snare, you know. There is a hypnotic element to the band where they just cycle. Doesn't get boring because they improvise in their own little way. The guitar line might go off a little bit. The drummer might start going a bit fruity with the drum fills and whatnot. But we continue cycling and cycling. And we just jam. Like I said earlier in the last song, this is a jam band, man. We just jam it out. These dudes know how to be cohesive as a band and jam it out. And you could hear that there. And I'll tell you what, when you cycle through it so many times, after so long, you start picking out things. And you start hearing the production. And you start hearing the people doing what they're doing. Like that. I've never called a snare a boom before. But the snare booms, it just reverberates throughout the mix, and you can hear it as if it's just in a space of its own, man. It's really good, really good. We've got Way of the World coming up next, alright? Track number 5, let's keep going. There's Rocksteady, King of the Pit TV. Way of the World is the title of this one. We're listening to the album by Flipper, alright? This is track 5 of 9. Let's jump in. Way of the World. That's the way of the world. There are dreams left empty and blank, and legs that have ceased to walk. That's the way. That's the way of the world. There are kisses left undelivered, and sighs and moans unuttered. That's the way of the world. There are hearts no longer beating, and there's entrails spilled on the floor. That's the way of the world. These dudes can create an infectious hook, and I hate to admit it because it's very, very basic stuff, almost non-melodic stuff. You don't want to say that they create these hooks, but they do. That tune is quite infectious because as the cycle continues over and over, it only drills in more and more and more indirectly. I don't know what the rest of their material is like. Maybe that's just a little bit of novelty for this particular record, considering they're going for the whole generic flipper thing. But as you cycle over and over and over, you can't help but have these earworms just force-fed into your brain until you're singing along. It feels like the drummer sort of creates the development in this band. Of course, we've got lyrical content, but the drummer is the one who can add a little bit of flair and a few fills and accentuate and add their own little thing. Whereas the bassist doesn't go off. The bassist sticks to the foundation, and the guitarist just makes a bit of a racket on top. We've got Life coming up next, track number 6, alright? There's Rocksteady, King of the Pit TV signing in. We are listening to Flipper tonight. This one's entitled Life. It's track numero 6 of 9. Let's jump in, shall we? Let's go. Devoted to Gary via the Patreon. Thank you, Gary, my man. A little bit gassy tonight, eh? Sipping the Sprite. Let's go. Quite a positive little number, eh? Live! That was quite a positive number, eh? Once again, we're hitting the hooks. These dudes are bizarre in the way that they create such an audio assault with the instrumental, yet vocally are so clear, have such great clarity to the lyrical content, the phrasing and whatnot, and really dial in that chorus or main idea to the song. That was a good tune. That was probably best one on so far, to be honest with you. I like that one a lot. Quite a lot of development as well in the introduction to that song. We've got Nothing coming up next. There's Rocksteady, King of the Pit TV, listening to Flipper. This one's entitled Nothing. It's a short one at 2 minutes 18. Let's go.
Okay, wait, everybody start at the same time, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing, 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 nothing. You don't care, so you say, 'cause it's nothing, 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 nothing. Not to believe is what you believe, and it's nothing, 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 nothing. It's all a dream in the daylight, and it's nothing, 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 nothing. And the night is a nightmare.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-da.
Nothing, 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 nothing. You think too much and you'll go to jail, 'cause it's nothing, 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 nothing. Stupid police won't let you pay any bill, and it's nothing, 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 nothing. Sitting around and you're wasting my time, and it's nothing, 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 nothing. Once you were a good friend of mine. Let me out of here. You gotta let me out of here.
Ba-da-bow, ba-da-bow. Quiet, seriously. Like the remnants of a bomb being dropped. The noise that guitar was creating there on the last third of the song. Wow. What a wild, just fuzzed out, complex soundscape that guitarist can create. I don't know what they're doing, honestly. So that was good. That was probably like the most punk rock song we've heard off of this record so far. That was very punk rock. Almost it was a little bit Bad Brainsy, I thought. Only teetering on there, but that's what I thought. We've got a 1 minute 25 song coming up next. I'll see you there. Yes, now bless. Now don't forget the rest now, people. There's Rocksteady at King of the Pit TV. Sorry, I'll get my knee out of the way there. I am wearing shorts. I am not completely naked from the down below, but I could be, so I could have just lied to you, to be fair with you. We're listening to Flipper. This one's entitled Living for the Depression. It's the shortest on the record at 125, so whether it's a song or not, who knows. If there's not much to comment on, we'll just finish off with Sex Bomb, track number 9. Alright, let's go.
Supermarket aisles and take your vacation by flight. like you, cop out!
Didn't really like that last bit, a bit corny that, but with that being said, that's probably my favourite on the record. That's the most driving, traditionally punk rock infused song we've had. I like the vocal performance, a little more aggro to the vocal. I'd like the energy. I do like the energy, and it sounds so chunky, even though it is just a little tinny hi-hat that's been played all together. The sound is very chunky and in your face, and I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah, you know what, that was my favourite song on the record so far. Let's finish this off. We've got Sex Bomb coming up, which has got a major 78k views. I doubt that it's going to be a who was it who did it originally? Tom Jones, a Tom Jones cover, but here we are. There's ROCKSTEADY King of the Pit TV finalising this album. The album is called Album by Flipper, also known as Generic Flipper, for this particular record. This entire listen through has gone out to my good friend Gary. Thank you very much for the recommendation, Gary. He recommended it over at the Large P, the Patreon. This is Sex Bomb. I doubt it's a cover, you know. Maybe it is, you never know. Sounds like that bass is drop tuned, you know. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Rock and roll, man. Did Kurt Cobain like Flipper? Quality bass line. Ba-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Bup, 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 bup. These dudes are jamming out, eh? Yeah, these guys are jamming out. I know it's a punk record, but man, this is a rock and roll record first and foremost, I would say. I love that just distorted bass guitar, just so prominent and just so bold, man. Bum 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 bum. It's fair to say those fools were jamming hard on that number. They finished that record off with a banger. How catchy was that? Bum, ba da 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 ba da 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 ba ba ba. What a banger! That was a great tune. That was the best one on the record. That was the best one on the record. That was so catchy, so infectious, such a powerhouse, such a rock and roll number. I'm going to do one last video. I'm going to give you my final resolution, my final take on this album, and we'll go from there. Yes, now, people. There's Rocksteady, King of the Pit TV, signing in. We just listened to Flipper. For the very first time in my life, I've come across this band from time to time, referenced through, you know, hardcore punk adjacent conversation and information. This band's popped up from time to time. Flipper, this band is entitled, well, this record is entitled Album, and I assume on this record they were going by the title of a generic Flipper. For what purpose, you tell me. It was recommended on the Patreon by my good friend Gary. Thank you very much, Gary. I really do appreciate that. And with that being said, we had 9 tracks on this record. A little longer than what you first think when you have a look at the track listings initially. We got a couple of tunes on here. One 8 minutes 34 and another one at like it's just verging on 8 minutes to finish the record off. This bunch were jamming out on this record. This was definitely a jam band as opposed to write a record over time, go home, practice it, go home, write more to it, and then keep bringing ideas back to practice. These dudes just, I reckon it's the bassist. I reckon the bassist comes up with a riff, the drummer joins in, the guitarist just makes a racket over the top, and then the main sort of writing is down to the front man who sort of has to compose lyrical content. I think that's the most heavy duty composition that this band has to implement in their sound. It was good. It was a good album. It was an interesting album, and it's an album that it's interesting really, because you got your kids at one side who would like it just for the like noise factor and the fact it's just a cool band. Then as you get into the middle, as you start to experience more music, you probably look at this and think, what the hell's going on? This is crap in comparison to like actual musicians and the craft people can create. And then when you listen to so much music, you return back to your primitive state, but at the other side of the spectrum, and you can appreciate this for what this is and go back to them childlike roots and feel the expression and the experimentation and the lack of care within reason in relation to, you know, the general consensus of what music should be and what it should sound like. It's punk rock, but beyond punk rock, I think this is rock and roll. I think it's a rock and roll record. Each and every song is essentially just an idea off of one riff, one 4-bar phrase. The bass line will play, and then we'll just cycle it over and over and over again. Surprising amount of hooks. There is a main vocal idea in the majority of these songs that you can sing along to, that gets stuck in your head due to the repetition, verging on a hypnotic sort of degree of repetition, and that's pretty good. The guitar is unlike most guitars I've heard before, because for the most part you just don't know what's going on. It's just big wall of just power, just this crazy coating of sound, this overt distorted wonderland, which does not go off. It does not create dissonance in the music. It's completely sensical. You just can't really grasp onto what's going on. It's this big just wall of sound, and I like it a lot. And the melody, as far as the instrumental is concerned, or at least the riffing, comes from the bass line. You can hear the bass line with clarity. Somewhat distorted itself in some of the tracks. Drumming, it does the job. It gets the job done. Not a great drummer, but a good enough drummer. A few good fills, to be honest with you. A few good fills. Vocal performance, almost like spoken word. A few harsher vocals from time to time, but not necessarily harsh. More like a rock and roll shout from time to time. Doesn't necessarily stay within that tone. I'm not going to rate this record because I don't want to do that. I don't think a record like this needs to be rated, because it will most definitely be each to their own, and every album is, but I don't think a band like this needs to be rated. I don't think an album like this needs to be rated out of 10. I think that's nonsensical. Pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed the experience, and I wonder if this was a one-off as far as the sound is concerned for Flipper, or whether this is sort of like how they sounded across the board, you know. I might do another video. It depends if I can find a Wikipedia page on this record, so we can discuss some interesting stuff regarding this band around this particular time. Let's see if we can find one, but if not, I'm going to sign out here and say peace, one love, people. I'll see you on the flip side. Yes, now bless now, people. Don't forget the rest now. Des ROCKSTEADY, King of the Pit TV, signing in. Surprisingly, a fair amount of information on this record on Wikipedia. We just listened to Generic Flipper, the album by Flipper, and let's jump in, shall we? So it was recommended on the Patreon by my good friend Gary, and we jumped straight in. So let's have a little read, see if there's anything interesting we can sort of pull out on this, which I'm sure there's going to be some things. So it's the debut studio album by the noise rock band Flipper. Yeah, you know what? Noise rock makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. I've never heard noise rock in my life, but if I was to call it noise rock, that would be noise rock. It was released in June 1982 by Subterranean Records. Who else did they put out? Nah, didn't really cut to the chase. It is also referred to as album album Generic Flipper, and just Generic. It was issued on CD for the first time by American Recordings, formerly Deaf American, in 92 and later deleted. In 2008, the rights reverted to Flipper and the album was reissued on December 9th, 2008 by Water Records. Former Nirvana bassist Chris Novoselic, who joined Flipper in 2006, contributed liner notes to the new reissue. I'm surprised the label put this out, like a reputable label. But then again, I'm speaking on the issue in 92. That was like a decade after, so I don't know what this band went on to do after this. It was recorded in October 31st, 80 to August 81. Noise rock, punk rock, post-punk. Length 40 minutes, 15 seconds long. And we've got about 20 label associates. Producer was Flipper and a guy called Chris, quite simply Chris. And in 84 they put a record out called Gone Fishing. So Robert Christgau praised the album. Who's this guy? An American music journalist and essayist, some nerd, praised the album, describing the music as crude and immensely charitable and good-humoured. Iggy with Jerry's soul, I'm not kidding. He described the lyrics as existential resignation at its most enthusiastic. If great rock and roll is supposed to be about breaking the rules, wrote Mike Deeming of All Music, then Flipper's still astonishing debut album Generic Flipper confirms their status as one of the great rock bands of their day. He describes the brilliant Sex Bomb as the closest thing 80s punk ever created to the beer-fueled genius of the Kingsmen's Louie Louie, and a song with a great beat that you just can't dance to. Wait, what about I could dance to that? That's a right dance floor filler. He also noted that despite their sincere misanthropy and cynicism, sorry if I butchered that word, I know what it means though, on life, they dared to express a trait unhip benevolence, declaring life is the only thing worth living for. He concludes by writing that the band plays noise rock with none of the pretension that later bands brought to the form, proving that music doesn't have to be fast to be punk, a lesson that gave the Melvins a reason to live, and creating a funny, harrowing and surprisingly engaging masterwork that profoundly influenced dozens of later bands without sounding any less individual decades later. Do you know what? Them classifying it as noise rock has given me a completely different perspective on this record. Because I was approaching it like a hardcore band that couldn't necessarily play their instruments. But the reality is, they were just making a lot of racket. And that was the whole point. That completely changes my perspective. Another reviewer described the band's performance on the album as drawing upon the same brand of frustrating nihilism one associates with such so-called contemporaries as Fear and the Germs, and argues that Flipper broods where their peers seethe, slowing tempos and moaning rather than spitting their despairing lyrics. Elsewhere, in Noel Gardner's review for NME, he described the band as one who made a punishing virtue out of being sloppy, offbeat and imprecise. Flipper existed at the epicenter of the California punk scene in the early 80s, but as their hardcore peers sped up, they slowed down. A simple concept that helped to create a remarkable, incomparable signature sound, one which trickled down into the musical visions of most famously Black Flag and Nirvana. He calls the album their definitive statement, lyrically a bipolar flip between ugly negativity and lightbulb moment optimism. Musically, sorry, got a tickle in my throat. Generic turns almost unrelated layers of free expression into a black and massive enduring power. A lot of great reviews there from the professionals on the side. Accolades, it was ranked 12th in the Village Voice's annual Paz and Jop poll. What the hell? In 2007, Blender magazine ranked it number 86 on their list of the 100 greatest indie rock albums of all time. In 95, Spin ranked it 79th on their list 100 alternative albums. In March 2004, Mojo included it on their list Lost Albums You Must Own. Rolling Stone ranked it 26 on their list of 40 greatest punk albums of all time, which is wild. That is wild. It's each to their own. It's each to their own. I'm not going to disagree with that list, but I bet you the Rolling Stone 40 greatest punk albums of 2017 was like completely different bands. All Rolling Stones makes the list. In 2018, Pitchfork concluded it at number 193 on the 200 best albums of the 80s. Buzz Osborne of Melvin said, "This will be my top 5 albums of all time." Donita Sparks of L7 listed it as one of her favourite grunge albums. Cobain listed it in his top 50 albums of all time. Covers. Melvin's covered Way of the World, appearing on their collection singles 1 to 12. Unto Ashes covered Way of the World on their 2005 album, Grave Blessings. R.E.M. covered Sex Bomb on their 94 Fan Club Christmas single. L7 has covered the song by Mashing It with Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath, calling the result song Sweet Sex. And there you go. Personnel, we got Will Shatter, bass, lead vocals, backup vocals. Bruce Luce, which is a hard name, bass, lead vocals, backup vocals, special effects and bass feedback. Ted Falcone on guitars, Steve DePace on drums, extra percussion, flipper, hand clapping and percussion. Additional personnel, Bobby, Ward Curtis, Deanne, Johnny and others, percussion and saxophones. Production credits, Chris Flipper and Gary Kramer. And there you go. That's that read has changed my perspective on what I have just heard. Hearing it defined in a different manner to the naivety, the lens I perceived it through, has made me feel a lot different. And that was Flipper. I'm signing out. Peace.